She may be the perfect example of what Washington critics call the revolving door syndrome.
Congresswoman? Congresswoman Emerson, Drew Griffin with CNN.
Which could explain why all we got from Congressman JoAnn Emerson was the slam door treatment. The Southeast Missouri Republican is quitting Congress, not because she lost. In fact, she just won her last election to her 10th term by a landslide. She's quitting because she landed a job back in what you might call the real family business, the politics of influencing Congress. Follow the lineage. In the 70s, JoAnn Emerson, a Washington, D.C. native, married a lobbyist named Bill Emerson. When lobbyist Bill Emerson went on to become congressman from Missouri, JoAnn went on to become a lobbyist for the restaurant industry. When he died of cancer in 1996, she took his seat, and she's served 9 terms since then. And while the combined Emersons were spending 32 years in Congress, they were raising 2 daughters, both of whom who are now registered lobbyists. Now, Congresswoman Emerson goes back to a trade association directing a team of lobbyists.
It's the personification of the revolving door.
Kathy Kiely with the SunlightFoundation says it's a revolving door of lobbyists and politicians and staff members and big payoff jobs that erode Americans' faith in a system that seems to be driven by special interest access and money.
What people do see is that there's a network of individuals who don't necessarily have the public interests at heart. They have special interests at heart. And those, when people have the impression that those special interests are dominating Washington and the way things work here, it reduces people's faith in their government. And it probably should.
Technically speaking, JoAnn Emerson is not becoming a lobbyist, at least not yet. She has been named the new CEO of the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association. She will direct a group that has a staff of lobbyists that spent $3.5 million handing out campaign contributions in the last election and has spent many more millions lobbying Congress. Her predecessor was paid $1.6 million a year. That predecessor, a former congressman himself and a registered lobbyist, Glenn English.
So this organization must value your participation in Congress more than your CEO experience when you came in, and that's the same thing with her.
Oh, I think so. I think that's probably true. I think the membership recognizes out there that that one of the very important functions of this organization, of course, is making sure that we're well represented within Congress.
JoAnn Emerson is one of 5 members of Congress in office in 2013 to become part of the lobbying/influence community in D.C. One of them, North Carolina's Heath Shuler, was asked about that back in December.
Are you planning to become a lobbyist?
No. Despite that assertion, he's taken a job as Senior Vice President of Federal Affairs for Duke Energy.
Technically, this freshman crop of brand new lobbyists won't be able to lobby Congress officially for 2 years, which is in the bizarre world of loophole Washington, making them all the more valuable.
They're still in the influence business, but they're not registered lobbyists, which in fact enhances their influence.
In fact, official registered lobbyists are so concerned about all these unregistered influencers that the American League of Lobbyists wants to impose new rules, especially aimed at former members of Congress who can still use the congressional gym, walk onto the House floor, or use all their past contacts to, well, influence. So what does the Congresswoman have to say about all this? That's what brings us back to the halls of the Rayburn Congressional Office Building. The Congresswoman agreed to talk to us in Washington Monday at 5 o'clock. Then a few days later, she backed out. Her aide telling us the Congresswoman just didn't think it was such a good idea.
Leaving us to have to come to Washington, to the halls of Congress, to play the bad guy, staking out Congresswoman JoAnn Emerson just to try to get a comment.
And about 5 o'clock Monday, there she was, emerging from an elevator.
Congresswoman? Congresswoman Emerson, Drew Griffin with CNN. Can you give us 5 minutes, Congresswoman? Congresswoman Emerson?
And there she went into her soon-to-be vacated office. So we waited.
Can you tell us why you're leaving Congress? Can you tell us why, after you won an election pretty well, Why would you leave Congress to take basically a lobbying job? Congresswoman?
Back in Missouri, the state now must hold a special election to fill the seat JoAnn Emerson is walking away from. That will cost taxpayers nearly $1 million.
Drew Griffin joins me now. So, Drew, you reported she won by a landslide in November, then announced she was quitting in December. Why didn't she quit before the election if she knew she was leaving?
One of the big questions we wanted to ask her, Anderson, and also ask her, how early did she know she'd be leaving, right? She actually filed paperwork with the House stating that really within days, 9 days after the election, she was already in talks to take over this $1.5 million job. Her chief of staff told us the job opportunity just popped up out of the blue. Seems remarkable, especially when you also see that the National Rural Electric Cooperative has been the Congresswoman's biggest single campaign donor, contributing $72,000 to her and her husband over the years, and another $20,000 just to the Congresswoman Political Action Committee.
So now they're going to actually pay her a lot more than that. In fact, a lot more than she would make if she stayed in Congress, right? I mean, that's way more than her salary.
It is a major pay boost. We think. We don't know the exact figures yet, but as a member of Congress, she would be paid $174,000 a year. That's a lot, of course, for a lot of us. And while we don't know exactly what she's going to make as the head of this trade association, she's replacing a guy, a former congressman, who made $1.6 million a year. That's nearly 10 times the salary